Hi, Tracy Lewis from Stuff and Things. I am going to talk about my Copic markers that I just bought. I have a very long, elaborate article about them, and I thought it might be good for me to demo some of the different aspects of what I wrote in the article. So, first off, I talked in the article about, just a sec, I'm going to go get some pens here. I talked about buying some resupply of coloring mediums. I bought watercolor pencils and Stampin' Blends. And those were wonderful mediums, loved them, but in both cases they only have 12 total colors each. So I'm going to show you really quick the blends, and they are a marker. Here's a Copic marker, so these all look very similar to each other. But if you look at the colors, we have, these four blues blend together, these two oranges blend together, we have some peachy pinks, a red, some pinks, a lavender, purpley blue or periwinkle. But this is it. So I'm showing you this, and now I'm going to show you why it was that I didn't find that enough. Here I have my new set of markers that I have been working on. In the middle here, these square topped markers that you see right here are markers that were recovered from the accident. The oval markers, I had about 358 or 9 total of them, a couple of duplicates that I used for different purposes, and all of these were destroyed in the accident. So when I told myself, and my husband was silly enough to think that it was even possible, that I was going to be able to eliminate the use of Copics completely and just be happy with the 12 colors in the blends and the 12 colors in the watercolor pencils. I bought those early January, loved them when I opened them up and used them for some projects, but ultimately I started to feel restricted with the color choices that I had, and so I ended up deciding, nope, I am absolutely going to have to at least buy what I would call like a starter set of the Copics to be able to do a few things that I'm going to require at a minimum. So I basically, we had already been paid for the loss of our items. So in effect, these were paid for. But of course, it's always good to look at what you live with. We are a minimalist couple, and certainly I did not use all 356 colors with regularity. There probably was, and I'm trying to be realistic on this first round of markers that I did buy. I think in this box that I just showed you, or this case, there's 144 pens. And I did an analysis, I came up with a requirements list, and I'm going to stick with my requirements, and I believe that that will end up being 168 pens out of the total of 358 colors that you can get, of which I do own a few of these square ones, which are called the original markers. The original markers only come in 212 colors. The sketch markers and the chow markers, two different kinds of markers and two different price points, are available in the 358. So I already owned these original markers, and the reason why I got them is they have a very special tip here called a superfine nib that didn't exist when I first collected my Copics. Since I started collecting the Copics in the sketch, they've now come out with what they call a fine nib that I do not believe is as fine as this particular nib here that I'm demonstrating does. I also am happy that I have 18 of these pens that kind of are all in the darks, focusing on grays and browns, and they are used for things like hair or whiskers, really fine, or if I want to do any fine accents in whatever coloring I'm doing. And because I do A2 sized cards most of the time, there definitely is a high level of usage of all of my superfine nibs. So My requirements that I came up with, that I wrote in the article, were that I only wanted to buy sketch markers. There is the option of mixing. I saw a lot of used sets on eBay that were a mix of chow and sketch. I want to keep true to the first time around where I owned only one kind of marker, so I don't regret having gotten the chow markers, which are the lower price point. They don't hold as much ink, and I do not believe they are fully like the nibs in them. This particular pen is this body is permanent, and you replace the nibs and you refill the body with ink. And the chows are cheaper, and they have some limitations to those same criterias. So I'm sticking with the sketch, and I'm okay with the superfine nibs that I own today, and I do not actually have on the radar a need for any more. There are 8 colors in what they call the fluorescents, and you can see these are very bright colors. And as a card maker, I have found I use the fluorescents all the time. I really enjoy taking, you know, this purple and doing what's called a flick. And then on the other side, I'll have maybe a flick of the yellow coming into it and end up with something really colorful. And then I can have, you know, pink and purple. And so these very bright colors I just have really enjoyed using. But you don't find them a lot. Even a lot of the stores don't have these. They will only have a few of them, not all 8 of them. So one of my bulleted items was having these fluorescent colors. The other requirement, which is more of a really basic requirement, is what's called blending. And that is those blends I showed you have mostly 2, a light and a dark, and some overlapping of the colors where you can actually get a blend of 3 or 4. And the Copic markers are really, the power of them is their blending. So I've done a pre-blend here, and this is a marker at the bottom, the lightest color, called R20. And then the next marker is R21, R22, R24, and R29 up here. So my requirement, actually after sketch markers, but before fluorescence, was blending sets. I definitely require that I have the ability to blend from light to dark with at least 3. So I have also, just for fun, I brought out this blue set to have aside. So I can show you how these blending sets work. So this is the lightest color, and I'm covering the whole surface in the light color. That's called B21. B23, is the second lightest one. B24 is the third lightest one. And see how they just all kind of meld together in a nice, it's just a really lovely, soft, buttery feeling, for lack of a better term. And then this is the darkest color, 29. So this was my second requirement, that I can be able to do color blends, and I even listed very specific colors. I listed specifically I wanted to be able to do a sky blue range, and this is my medium blue. B21, 23, 24, and 29. So when you look at the sets, because I am totally comfortable buying used, I knew that I wanted to try to find, my one initial chance to get started was to find a used set on eBay that came with the cases to hold them. That just seems to be, in my experience, the best way to get them. You can buy brand new markers on eBay, but they're usually random colors, they don't blend, and they don't come with cases. So you can get them for around $3.23 per pen. So I was actually starting my search by looking for a used marker set that was actually used by a crafter that included blending sets. Like I'm pulling out here, Y11, Y13, Y15, and Y17. So this is an example of the yellow blending set that is very common. And when I was building my at first time around set, I was missing, like, you know, Y13. So the light to 15, the 11 to the 15, there was too big of a gap. And so what I liked about when I finally did find a used set, it included these 4 pens. It included these 4 pens. It included these 5 reds. So I was able to go through and see that it satisfied, you know, 7 or 8 of the basic colors. It had a lavender, it had a pink, it had red, yellow, blue. What it was missing, it even has 2 green sets. It missed orange, so I had to buy, to make the set work, I had to buy Y4 and Y9, or YR4 and YR9. It came with Y02, but it was missing, and then there's a YR07 in here I'll talk about in a minute. So I had to actually buy that. But the fact that the set that I was interested in came with these basic colors was great. The very last requirement that I had was I need the ability, I like to do steampunk coloring, and so when you do steampunk coloring, there's a lot of metals involved. So I wanted the ability to be able to do what I call metal coloring, and that's simulating a metal. And right here with what I have, I am going to quickly do what I would call, you know, like a sterling silver or a steel color. And and in the colors of like copper and brass and gold, these colors C1, C3, C5, and C7 make a nice basic silver or tin metal blend. You know, this is a round metal object right here. Just being very basic. So that was my final requirement, that I be able to do gold, silver, brass, bronze, and copper colors, simulating those colors so that I can do my steampunk coloring. So armed with all those goals, I did find a set. It was priced on the high side, but right before the listing was going to end, the person lowered the price. So I sent her a text, and I told her that I wanted to make an offer on her markers, but that I actually had another transaction that my husband was insisting be completed before I put my offer in. So it ended up that I worked him down, and 1/2 an hour before this listing was going to end, I went ahead and lowballed her, expecting if she had time. This was like about lunchtime on a weekday. So I figured if she had a daytime job, she would have a lunchtime, hopefully, where she could see my offer and counter it. And then I already had left a little note in my offer that I would be sitting at the computer waiting to see her response so that I could respond immediately. She actually accepted my offer, and this particular set came with 2 big cases. The squares in the middle here are in a skinny case. So the 2 big cases of 72 markers each. It was 107 markers, so I had enough room in there to get all 144 of my markers. In fact, what I have here will hold 168. And she accepted my offer. I came up with a used price on the cases because I knew they're pretty expensive. They're over $58 a piece on Amazon right now. But used, I can get them for about $20. And so it ended up that I paid $3.94 per marker. And from there, I have 2 orders of brand new off of one of the online stores that has a low minimum shipping. So a lot of the places, first off, you need to get free shipping to get a good price on the Copics. And so I picked up an online store called Scrapbook Pal that it allows a minimum order of $25, which is absolutely perfect. especially for somebody who's wanting to grow their Copic stash 1 month at a time. You could just plan your ordering process, $25 each month. You get a few pens at a time, and you don't have to pay any shipping, and they charge you $5.24 per pen. It's not the absolute cheapest price per pen. Carpe Diem Markers charges $4.99 per pen, and free shipping is at $35. So either one of those places are great. So in my article, I have a full list of every single pen for the 2 subsequent orders. I've already made 1 order, and I ordered 18 additional pens that got me the filling in some of the gaps. I was missing some of the really light colored sky. I actually like to do sky for all of like my flowers, and in order to get the sky to look nice, it's just around the perimeter. You use either BG000 or B000 and B000. So I bought all 3 of those to do the sky that I wanted to do. And then I bought some incremental, like if I was missing a color to complete a color blending set, I bought a few of those. And then I bought all of the fluorescents. So that was 18 markers. And then the last order that I have that I am going to wait, because I'm trying to be frugal with my money and we have some other things we need to get. So I'll probably wait a couple more weeks and then end up with the last 23 markers, and they are going to complete the rest of my metals that I can do some of the metals right now. I'm even able to do gold, but like I don't have enough to do any of the coppers or brass, and so I will get those, as well as color blending for white and ivory, or cream and ivory as I call them. A white really isn't a white. You always have to add some sort of shadows in order to make the white look white. Like I'm thinking ice skates and polar bears. So the cream and ivory color blending set, as well as a couple of others, those are all in the browns. And so most of what I'm getting are browns, actually. She was very light, who I bought this set from. The browns were very few and far between. And she has a lot of the lights that can do people's faces. So obvious when she was doing her coloring, it was obvious that she actually did people's faces. So I have those colors of whites, or browns, I mean, not just the creams and ivories. So that concludes my initial set of 168 markers. I only have 144 right now, and then I have 23 additional markers left. I did find this pink tote. I own 2 of these because I found one up in storage, and I also have a couple of additional of the Copic totes that I had from the first time around when I was building my stash. So I have enough storage now, if I use all of my Copic black cases and the 2 pink totes, to hold about 330 markers, which maybe I'll never need more than that. And then I think there's also enough room for me to throw in my blends. They can live in my second case. And I am very happy. I've been doing coloring projects. I already have put one and made it live. That's why I wanted to get this article done that explained what my process was for ordering these and how I was going to build my setup in a way that made sense and saved as much money as possible. And hopefully you find this interesting. I know that Copic markers are not for everyone, but this is a very good article and video for somebody who is already in love with Copics, does have some limited funds, and wants to figure out the best way to build up their collection. Thanks for watching.